Hi, everyone. Welcome. I did not get two memos. First, I didn't get the memo that it was going to be warm today. So I decided to dress like it was winter. We are in the middle of winter, aren't we? Okay, just making sure. And also, I grew up right down the street and had no clue this place even existed. So, news to me. Isn't it gorgeous? I am really thrilled to be here today. I'm Adriana Costa. And my good friend Laura asked me to moderate. And I said, well, if we're talking about health and wellness, then hell yeah. Because I think, especially in our generation, everybody cares about living longer and doing it happily and healthfully. So it's so much more about like cutting out processed foods and crap that's in our lives and really focusing on how we can be our best selves. And medicine has changed. So we're taking sort of, I guess the sort of idea behind today's talk is about taking old Eastern philosophies and mixing it with modern medicine, and then poof, we're going to be our healthiest healthy, right? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our panelists today, Dr. Singh, Sarah Glicken, Dr. Cooper, and Dr. Taylor. Thank you all so much for joining us. Can you guys hear us? Okay, good, because I felt like the mics were really quiet before. Dr. Singh, I'm gonna let you start. If you guys don't mind, just a little introduction about who you are and what you do.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Ravinder Singh, and so I was born in India. No, I won't go that far. I'm a neurologist, and I'm trained at UCLA Medical Center, but I have an integrative center in Beverly Hills, a premier neurology medical group, and I'm a headache specialist. So my passion is to integrate both Western and Eastern medicine. So even though I've been trained in Western medicine, I found out many years ago when I started my own practice that there were a lot of patients that I could not help with my medications. And so coming from India, I was exposed to a lot of alternative therapies and said, I think it's time to integrate some. So I started referring patients to some of the people that are around me who were chiropractors and acupuncturists, and I started getting much better results. So then about 15 years ago, I decided it's time to integrate both in one place. So I started my center, and it's integrating both Western and Eastern medicine. So we have an acupuncturist, we have a yoga therapist, an Ayurvedic doctor, homeopathic doctor, chiropractor, nutritionist, and me being the sole Western trained physician. But the idea is to find the best treatment for you. So as a headache specialist, I see a lot of women with migraine headaches, and they come to me, and my approach is to find what works for you. So there may be medications that will help you, but there are also a lot of other options available that can help you to get over and not just treat the symptoms, but treat the cause of the problem. So my approach is to at least find out what's causing the problem and go from there. So I treat the symptom, but at the same time, we need to go delve deeper into what's causing the problem. And a lot of times, stress is a very big issue. And so after being in practice for so long and doing this integrative center, I decided to write a book on headache. And if you go inside, you'll see it's called Not Tonight, I Have a Headache. And it's not about what you think it is. Uh, but it's my approach of integrating both Western and Eastern medicine and doing a lot of stress management. Over the years, I've learned that to really help my patients, I need to address the cause of the problem. And in many cases, stress is the most important cause. And so I've been doing a lot of more stress management and talking about lifestyle and how to take charge of their life, not only just address the symptoms of stress, but to become a more resilient person so you can handle the stress better and look at your purpose in life. So that's been my journey so far. And I enjoy what I do when I can transform people's lives, and they are off their medications but are living a healthier and happier lives. That was what turns me on. So I'm happy to be here and talking about what I do and helping everybody and learning from the great panelists that we have here on also, because I don't know everything. I may think so, but I don't.
He does. This is a man who knows everything. You can just tell by looking at him. All right, moving on to Sarah Glicken. Sarah is an expert in biohacking. You have to, what? I'm sure a lot of people don't even know what that is.
Probably, although I would imagine that in this crowd there are a lot of people who do know a lot about biohacking. And I sort of first got interested in it. So, biohacking is, there are a lot of different sort of definitions of it, but the idea is the ability to change your physiology through changes either in your environment, what you ingest, things that you do to your physical body. So it's the ability to make massive changes with minimum effort. So it's frequently almost like sometimes it's about tricking your brain in order to trigger something to happen in your body. And I first got really interested in sort of alternative healing arts. I was born and raised as a hippie child in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So I started learning about alternative health in the 70s, barefoot on the land. And really always took that to heart, and then moved to New York and became a marketing executive and realized that this was something that we all needed, was to sort of learn how to take better care of ourselves, and the idea of prevention and longevity. And then, unfortunately, I walked both of my parents through cancer journeys, caregiving both of them, and they both died. And at that point, I really decided to make a sharp turn and change my career to do something where I could make more of an impact in the world and help people, because I feel like the direction that we are going in the Western world is although we're learning more and more, we have so much more at our fingertips, we're also sicker and sicker with processed foods and environmental toxicities, that it's time that we really took a look at all of this stuff and ways that we can make small shifts. Because a lot of times it's not even a major thing that you need to do, that you can make a massive change in your body.
And we're going to delve way deeper into that, because I'm holding you accountable. I want to know, like, what do I need to cut out exactly to make the change? It does feel like people are getting sicker and sicker. Also, I mean, I guess we're living longer, so more illnesses are coming up throughout people's lives. But
Absolutely.
we have so much more knowledge these days, and it feels like people want to take, greater hold on how they can make those changes in their lives. So thank you for that, Dr. Cooper, Doctor of Chiropractic, Acupuncture, and Chinese Medicine. Was that even a full sentence? It sounded like, I don't know. Hi, I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks, Jude. So yes, I started out actually a hippie chick.
Put it closer.
Oh, I started out as a hippie chick on the beach in Australia, but came to the States quite young. I had already trained as an esthetician, and I went straight to Hollywood and became a celebrity esthetician. But I realized early on that your skin is a reflection of what's going on inside. And I had a big brain, so I went and became a doctor of chiropractic with clinical nutrition. And eventually, once I received acupuncture, I was like, well, everybody needs to be able to get this, so I learned how to do that also. So I've had a very well-rounded holistic practice for many years. 5 years ago, I was introduced to some brilliant Western scientists who have introduced me to something called deuterium. I know it sounds like a fancy new word, and I'll be explaining deuterium to you in a moment. But essentially, we work right back, always trying to find the root of the problem. We now go straight to inside the cell, inside the mitochondria, at the subcellular level. Because most, it's probably more than 80%, but most chronic metabolic conditions, which include all of the things that we've been talking about today, fatigue, weight, cognition, allergies, down the road leads to cancer, diabetes, and Alzheimer's, is due to lack of energy production inside our mitochondria, inside our cells. So this is brand new. I feel it's the most modern medicine, scientifically validated, clinically researched. We've treated over 10,000 patients and have a lot of clinical studies. And I'm just happy to be able to share it with you today.
Do you? I need to know if you deal with adult onset acne. Just for a friend, of course.
Of course.
What is up? Like, all of a sudden I'm getting like these crazy blemishes all over, and I didn't have those as a kid.
What we've really learned is to just look at the people and do a good consultation and look at their life history, because things accumulate over time.
It's the toxicity inside.
And it's obviously, usually not just one simple thing, but honestly, I start at the level of the cell, because if your cells can make adequate energy, our body is designed to fix things. That's what it's designed to do. But if it can't make the appropriate cellular energy to do so, because it gets bogged down with deuterium, it can't do what it's supposed to do. So things start to fall apart. And usually your weakest spot, maybe it's your skin, maybe it's your joints, maybe it's your brain, energy production, fertility. Those are the things that start to get unfunded first. So we want to make sure you know about this and how you can manage these deuterium levels so you can eventually manage your aging process, your disease processes, and your health for the rest of your life with this knowledge.
Dr. Julie Taylor,
You got your own.
bioidentical hormone specialist and functional medicine doctor. That is quite the title. I'll let you go into it. And she has 3 children.
I do.
So.
So I am a medical doctor, and I did my training at Loma Linda University, which is one of the only blue zones in the world. And I did it in prevention. The residency is preventive medicine, which is actually a very unusual. Am I getting feedback? A little bit. Can I?
Do you mind? So put that one down.
Sorry about that. That's a little distracting. So I did my residency in preventive medicine, and I learned, that was really the beginning of how I learned how to prevent disease. And I really learned about bioidentical hormones there and started my practice right out of residency and really got into functional medicine. Functional medicine is such a buzz term these days, but it's really not something that is very common in the kind of medical doctor world. We don't really learn about that, but it's really all about getting down to the root of the problem. So my youngest patient is 5, my oldest is 93, and I see patients for all sorts of different symptoms. I also do a lot of bioidentical hormones. I do a lot of PMS and postpartum and menopause, and I see men for andropause, which is a whole nother topic of conversation. But it's really such a fulfilling practice, and it's just when we get down to the root of the problem, whether it's hormones or gut healing or cortisol, support or diet or exercise, or just lifestyle, that's really what we all want. We don't want to be on medication. We don't want to, have surgery. We really want to figure out what's at the root of the problem. And unfortunately, conventional medicine is so much focused on, the way that we learn as medical students is how the body works, what happens when it breaks down, and how to fix it with medication and or procedures. And that's just how we learn. So it's almost like we can't really fault the medical doctor for that, because that's really how we learn. So really, it has to come back to education. How we're teaching medical students to become physicians, and therefore how they're treating their patients. But it's all about getting down to the root of the problem. That's really how medicine should be practiced.
So in your opinion, what needs to change as far as education goes?
So much of what we learn in medical school, and Dr. Singh, you can probably respond to this as well, is we don't learn anything about nutrition. We don't learn anything about, kind of hormone replacement in the way that, treating menopause with hormone replacement, or, that PMS and PMDD and those types of things, hormones really need to be looked at. So, I think that if we teach medical students about nutrition, and we teach them about lifestyle change, and we teach them about, when you look at a patient who comes into your office, don't just look at their hypertension. Don't just look at the fact that, they have, whatever given symptom, and think of what medication you can use to treat that symptom. Figure out what is really going on. But it requires spending a lot of time with your patient. So it's really like the whole medical system has to change.
Yeah, Dr. Singh, stress is one of the leading causes of death. Is
Right.
that not,
Yes.
It's funny because I think a lot of moms especially can relate. It's like you're going a million miles a minute, you're taking care of everybody, and then you're making sure you get to the yoga class, but maybe you're not really taking the moments to relax between all of it, which I feel stressed all the time. But I feel like I'm taking care of myself as well. So can you speak to that a little bit about managing stress a little bit better?
Yes, stress is very important, and I agree. We're all very stressed out. Our lives are very, and especially in this day and age, and in this country, we are doing million things every day, and so we're running from one place to another, and it's causing us a lot of stress. And so now, yes, yoga is very helpful, and I thank God that it become very popular. But again, we're using yoga as just a stopgap measure. Like, okay, we are doing all these things and running around and say, okay, let me go to my yoga class. So you go to the yoga class and you maybe relax for an hour and you feel really good. But after the yoga class, it's like, oh, I gotta go here, I gotta pick up my kids, I gotta go do this and that. So that 1 hour is not going to make a huge difference in your life unless you change the way you approach life, the way you live your life. So we're using all these techniques as just managing the symptoms again. We've gotten one step better than taking medication. So instead of taking a Xanax or taking another pill to calm down, we're saying, okay, we'll do yoga therapy, and we do the yoga, but we're still using it as a crutch. And we're not really getting the best benefit from yoga or whatever other techniques we're using for managing our stress. So we have to look at our life and see what is causing the stress in the first place. Why are we running around so much? Why are we so stressed out? Is our job not something that we want to do? If our jobs are causing us stress, we really need to look at what is it about this job, and is it really what I really want to do with my life? And I've had many patients who, being in Beverly Hills, I see a lot of the, celebrities or other minor celebrities who are in the show business, and they come to me and they went into show business because that's what they were attracted to, but they realized pretty quickly that's not giving them satisfaction. That's not giving them some fulfillment. And so they're in it for the fame and fortune, but that's not really giving them what they're looking for. So sometimes they end up making a change and doing something completely different. So it's about looking at your life and seeing what is causing the problem and addressing the cause and not just looking at the symptoms. Even if it's just by doing meditation or yoga, as if it's not really changing the way you live your life, it's still another pill, but without the side effects.
Right. I want to ask you really quickly about wine, because who likes wine out there? Anybody? Right, exactly. Okay. So I know people say alcohol is like not the greatest thing, but if you include it moderately in your diet, does it actually help reduce stress? And are you an advocate for it?
Well, personally, I don't drink.
Anything?
Non-alcoholic.
Oh
I
my
drink non-alcoholic only. But I mean, I know there is some evidence that drinking a glass of wine can be healthy, and so I mean, I'm not going to argue with those studies. But in terms of relaxation, people think yes, wine or drinking, having a drink at the end of the day relaxes you, but it actually doesn't. The brain doesn't really affect the brain in that sense. You don't want to be dependent upon something to relax your brain. You want to be able to do it naturally. So if that becomes your crutch, that you're depending upon that glass of wine to relax you at night, to de-stress you, that is not, and that's how people get addicted to it. And now if you're just drinking one glass and that's it, and you're pretty good about it, and it's not just for relaxation, but it's okay, you want to drink maybe some other benefits from it. I think that from a health perspective, that is okay. But pretty soon what happens is that one drink becomes two, and then it becomes three.
Well, we wouldn't know anything about that. Nothing at all. Okay, Sarah, will you tell us a little bit about biohacking?
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought I might just add something to the wine conversation, because it's a big topic of conversation in the biohacking world. And they're frequently, what's overlooked about alcohol is it's really what the additives, like in wine, it's a lot about the additives that are in them. So especially in California, most wine has a lot of toxic chemicals that are added to the grapes before the wine is made, and as well as sulfites, and that can really affect our internal ecosystem and our gut biome, et cetera. So there are actually some companies out there now that are doing sugar-free and low additive wines. There's a company called Dry Farm Wines that is all European, and all of the wines they're lower alcohol, they're zero sugar, they don't affect your blood sugar levels, they don't spike them.
And does it matter if it's organic?
Yes, definitely.
So like go for
Organic
opt for organic wines?
yeah.
Okay. Can you see, like we're trying to make it work here. See, I like the Blue Zone diet because it said you could drink wine. I was thrilled about that. You know Blue Zone diet, right? You obviously, Loma Linda is one of the Blue Zones, exactly. Okay, I want to hear, please explain a little bit more about biohacking, though, because I want to get familiar with it.
Sure. So Well, so I own a biohacking wellness center called OsteoStrong, and we're in Mar Vista. There are actually other OsteoStrong locations. There's about 125 of them around the world now. And it is focused on bone health. So the biohacking world really focuses on all different parts of our bodies as well as our brain. I mean, we can focus on our physical body, we can focus on our mind, and we can focus on our spiritual presence, which is some of what Dr. Singh was just mentioning. And I think that there are, probably the easiest biohack that we could all do is literally just breathing, right? We all forget to breathe. So even if we just start taking deeper breaths, breathing in and out, grounding, so coming out to a place like this, how often in Los Angeles are we somewhere where we can actually have our feet on the earth? So the kind of the literally taking off our shoes and walking on earth that reconnects us. We're all frequency beings, so we have a frequency, the earth has a frequency. So there's the ability to sort of get back, to bring to drop our nervous systems back down and to connect back in with the earth just by doing something like walking on ground for a while. And then there are things like what we do at OsteoStrong, which is about like when you think about your actual physical body and the foundation of our bodies, which we frequently overlook, which is our skeletal system and our bones. And so what we have come up with is a technology that strengthens our bones, joints, and muscles through a proprietary technology that it's literally puts yourself into an optimal position to exert a really high amount of force in your body for a very short period of time, and it triggers osteogenesis in your body. So it's a really amazing idea of a biohack because literally you do it one time, once a week. It takes 10 to 15 minutes, and we're seeing massive results in people's bodies. So people think that frequently we think we need to do a lot of things, or when we work out, we have to work out for hours and hours and hours. But in like this one thing, and this is just one example of it because it's what my passion is, but that we can strengthen our skeletal system. We can help the body to reverse osteoporosis. We can prevent injuries. We can be better athletes. We can stand straighter with better posture. We can have better endurance by doing something that takes 10 minutes once a week.
Right, so it's all about being effective.
Exactly.
Exactly, so less time, but I mean, this is
Right.
really hitting the system.
Work smarter, not harder,
Right,
in terms of
exactly.
everything that we're doing.
Okay, so Dr. Cooper, how do we live to 100 and look as fabulous as we want to?
It can be done, for
Okay,
sure.
good.
I wanted to say that many in Australia, I think they've taken away my Australian passport and they won't let me back in the country because I can no longer keep up with the drinking quota. I'm such an embarrassment to all of my friends there. But so I did live hard and strong when I was younger and did burn myself out. I really didn't understand why sleep was so important, and I overstudied and overworked and had the type of personality to take care of others and take care of everybody else. And I didn't think it was going to happen, but it did. And I crashed and burned. And I couldn't get myself back on track, even as a functional medicine practitioner and all the tools that I had in my toolbox. And fortunately, around the same time, or after a little bit of time of suffering, so I know what it feels like, and I know what a struggle it is. And as you do, that you're just not getting through your day as well as you used to. And I know how frustrating it is to be trying a lot of different things and not getting the success that you were hoping for. I fortunately met these brilliant scientists who are cancer researchers, but have been studying at the deep, deep level inside the mitochondria, and they study deuterium. Deuterium is a form of hydrogen. It's natural, it's not a toxin. Deuterium is a hydrogen, it's just twice as big and twice as heavy. And it's in our environment. And our body is designed to manage the levels as it is designed to manage blood pressure and minerals, etc., in our body. However, we have been overloaded in this hydrogen, deuterium, in our environment for the last few decades. In conjunction with the rise in cancer rates, Alzheimer's, diabetes, weight gain, and fatigue. Deuterium is more in our foods that we eat now. It's in our atmosphere, it's in our water. Even as healthy as you try to be, it's not really your fault because we are just all exposed to it. The consequences of having an overload, once it gets into us, it binds and it creates heavy water. It'll bind with the oxygen and other hydrogen, and now it's a deuterium atom in there, a larger and heavier one, that once it gets into our cells and inside our mitochondria, where there are tens of thousands of tiny little engines that make our cellular energy. This energy is required for the trillions of chemical and physical reactions that occur at every moment. And as we get bombarded with deuterium, we get unfunded with energy. And your weak spot is usually the place that goes first. And all the things that we've been talking about today as far as fatigue and energy, it occurs. It can also accumulate in organs and joints like your thyroid, and because it looks different and it's not really supposed to be there, it can trigger an autoimmune response. It can accumulate in our cholesterol, one of our most important nutrients, and the bonds between deuterium and cholesterol are 7 times stronger than regular hydrogens in cholesterol. It's no longer able to be broken down by the sun and utilized to make your hormones, to make your vitamin D and your bile salts. So fortunately, these scientists have scientifically validated and clinically approved. For over 30 years, this has been used in Europe. And I said, well, what about me? I don't have cancer, but I think my cells need to make more energy. And I had a brilliant response. And it made sense to me, but once I experienced it, I got myself back. But I also became very passionate about this. And in that time, I've had so many great success stories that I'm fully confident that this is the way medicine is going to go, and it is the way it's going to go. And I believe that we should all start here. We have designed test kits where you can test your deuterium levels, and we started out with my own patients, but it grew so big. We now have a patient portal, and people are hearing about us all over the country, but all over the world, and we are helping people to manage their deuterium levels. But also, we are designed to make low deuterium metabolic water inside of ourselves. We've just lost the ability to do so. So we teach people how to eat and consume foods and liquids and increase their oxygen content to enable them to make their own metabolic water. This way, you're going to be able to manage your own deuterium levels and therefore your aging and your health and disease processes for the rest of your life.
So what is one takeaway people can walk away with today? Like, what can they do to manage their own deuterium?
I feel everybody needs to get tested. I do have today, I'm offering a free consultation for people who qualify, who are interested. We do have a website that gives you a lot of data and information. We are very fortunate now that most people that come to us have already seen a lot of our podcasts, and they completely understand this makes sense to them, and they're ready to go.
So it's like certain foods too, because I got one
Yes.
of those tests that they said I was allergic to green beans. I'm like, great, because it's Thanksgiving, and that's what I'm eating tonight as a vegan. So that didn't really work too well in my favor.
Well, once your cellular energy is improved, your detox systems work better, your ability to extract nutrients from food works better. You just work the way you did when you were younger. Allergies often take care of themselves. There's just really getting back to the real root of the problem. There's a lot we could talk about today, but I urge you to just do your own research and your investigation. And I can just say from the bottom of my heart, if I had my best friend or even my worst enemy, I would encourage them to learn about deuterium depletion so that they could really improve their health, their life. Oxford University has done a study on deuterium depletion and depression and anxiety. After we go through our patients with this program, we also refer to people like Dr. Singh. You've got to manage your stress levels because sleep is a method of removing deuterium. And deep sleep uses that cellular energy to fix things. So we incorporate a program. We send people a program. We use air, breathing, food, water, sunshine, nature, grounding, light therapies, appropriate movement, sleep, and your mindset.
I love all that because you're right. You're kind of really bringing it to the basics.
Yeah.
Dr. Taylor, because you work with hormones and also we were talking a bit about cancer and research and all of that. Can you share with some of the, I was going to say viewers because that's what I'm used to, so some of the lovely ladies and gents here about what they should stay away from or incorporate into their diet or lifestyle to help, reduce our chances of getting cancer?
Sure.
Did I just put you on the spot?
Yeah. well, I
My
don't-
apologies. You can talk about something else if you'd rather.
I don't deal a lot with cancer, but I think really with kind of the practice that I do, it's really very well rounded. So I do have cancer patients who come in to see me, and we do vitamin C infusions and things like that. I think that's a really important part of managing a patient who has cancer. Or might have a risk for having cancer. We do lots of IV infusions, glutathione, which flushes out the liver, lots of gut healing. I think the gut microbiome is such an important thing that's really being talked about these days. So much of, what we experience in our symptoms manifests whether it's skin rashes or, things like that, really the root is in the gut. So, I have a lot of young men who come in who have, kind of history of GI upset. They don't know what's causing it. They've been to gastroenterologists. They've done all sorts of, scopes, and nobody's ever really found what's going on. And we do gut testing. We do stool testing and breath testing to look at something called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And, it's amazing once you put somebody on a gut healing protocol, what the benefits that they get out of it. Not only have they overcome the symptoms that they have in their gut, but they're sleeping better. They have more energy. They're able to think more clearly. And we do lots of cortisol testing as well. I think stress, like we've been talking about, is such an important part of it's really part of the hormone kind of building blocks that I look at. So it's cortisol, it's, your sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and it's thyroid. And if any of those are out of balance, it completely impacts the others. So getting all of those into balance is, is just really part of dealing with the whole person and really looking at everything, kind of from head to toe.
All right, so you are all incredible. Thank you for sharing all that. I'm going to open it up to our audience and whoever wants to ask questions. Yeah, of course.
I have a quick one for you. So, with the SIBO protocol, do you do it without heavy doses of antibiotics?
I
Will
do.
you repeat the question too, if you don't mind?
The question was, when I do the SIBO protocol, do I do them without heavy antibiotics? Absolutely. I have rarely ever prescribed the rifaximin, kind of protocol. I really do herbal antibiotics. I mean, most of the patients who come in to see me, nobody really wants to be on antibiotics, and I don't really want to prescribe. I mean, I do not prescribe really any conventional medicine. So I don't prescribe high blood pressure medicine. I don't prescribe, statins, and I don't prescribe antibiotics. So it's really about kind of figuring out what else is going on. So there's a protocol that's been studied at Johns Hopkins. It's Candibactin AR and BR through Metagenics, and that's what I use. I use that protocol, and it's incredible. I mean, it works. It's as effective as the other kind of more traditional protocol.
Any other questions? I'll just run this around too. So, yeah.
I just wanted to know Dr. Cooper's website.
Here, let me give this to you just so everyone can hear it.
No, I wanted to know Dr. Cooper's website. Oh. Is it your name?
Yes, actually, it's www.bevital, and it's .la, not .com. And you can always look me up too. We have podcasts, etc. If you just look up Dr. Ann Cooper. Oh, DC. There might be there's a few Dr. Ann Coopers, but if you put DC for chiropractor, or if you learn how to spell deuterium, then you'll really DEU.
Oh, DEU.
TERIUM. DEU. TERIUM.
Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Any other questions? I was going to say, you looked like you had a question. Come on down.
Hi. So my question has to do with bioidentical hormone stuff and your risk. My mother had a double mastectomy, kind of like inching towards the age when that happened to her. So I've always been a little wary of that. But I am in the process of having the problems that come along with menopause. And so, of course, you're around your friends and they're like, oh, bioidentical and this and that. Can you speak to that a little bit if you have a higher cancer risk in your family or things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do all the forms of bioidentical hormone replacement, creams, oral, as far as oral progesterone. I also do pellet therapy, which can be very effective. It really kind of depends on every person who comes in to see me is a complete individual, and that's really how I treat. So it really depends on, if you have any sort of genetic history, right? So one of the questions that I ask is, okay, your mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. How old was she when she was diagnosed? And that really kind of gives me an indication of if you do have any sort of genetic kind of predisposition to that. But, there was the Women's Health Initiative that came out back in early 2000s, and that was a whole NIH-funded study that looked at 16,000 women who were on synthetic hormones. So that really showed that women who were on synthetic estrogen developed strokes and heart attacks. Women who were then on the addition of synthetic progesterone developed breast cancer. And kind of overnight, everyone was very scared about doing hormones, kind of doctors stopped prescribing hormones sort of altogether. I don't prescribe any synthetic hormones. I only prescribe bioidentical, and they're determined to be much safer than kind of the synthetic hormones because they are chemically identical to the hormones that we make. Therefore, when we take them in, our body sort of addresses them as a self-hormone. They go to the receptors like they're supposed to. They're metabolized like they're supposed to be, and they're sort of excreted like our own hormones are. But I think that it's such an individual decision, and I think that that's something really important. That I kind of talk to with each one of my patients, because if you did have, I think one of the risks is if you did have something that was already kind of brewing, if you did have, a breast cancer, that was estrogen receptor positive, and then you take estrogen, whether it's synthetic or bioidentical, that could increase the growth of it. So, it's something where, I recommend having imaging done, and I do have patients who, talk about doing a mammogram versus ultrasound, and, certainly that's an option. But I think it's all about quality of life versus quantity of life. So, so many of my perimenopausal, menopausal patients who come in to see me, they're not sleeping. They feel like they're losing their minds. They're anxious when they never had been. They're depressed when they never had been. Their relationship is with their spouse or partner or whatever is falling apart. And now they have teenagers, who are going through hormonal changes as well. It's kind of like a recipe for disaster. So when I balance hormones, it's really life-changing. And I think that that's something that we really have to, kind of keep in mind is quality of life over quantity. But, I think it's really an individual kind of conversation that I have with each one of my patients.
What about birth control?
That's a whole other, I feel like, panel
Okay,
discussion.
never mind that. Well, I hate birth control personally.
I am not a huge fan of birth control. I mean, there's so much to unpack with that, but it suppresses our own hormones, our own ovulation. Progesterone, which is one of the things that it suppresses, is our own natural antidepressant. It's our own natural anti-anxiety hormone. It's the hormone that helps us to sleep. It's what's responsible for postpartum depression when it's low. It's what's responsible for PMS. It's such an important hormone, and that, when you suppress that, so many women, women do tolerate birth control well, but there's other women who, they're on birth control and they're completely depressed. They're kind of in a totally different place than they otherwise would have been. Birth control is definitely not for everyone, and I wish that they would find more non-hormonal birth control options. Hopefully that's something that's being developed.
Can I add something to that?
Please.
Just not about birth control, but just in terms of when we're talking about genetics, there's really also a big trend sort of in the biohacking world, in which I would consider all of us really part of, whether we call ourselves that or not, that it's not just about our genetics. So we also have to sort of let some of that go and look at our lifestyle and what we're doing in our lives, as opposed to just what was something that could be inherited from someone. So a lot of time we are seeing people coming into our center who are presenting with bone density issues, and the first thing, aside from using OsteoStrong, is like looking at how do you eat, and not just how do you eat, because a lot of people say like, oh, I'm vegan. Well, okay, so do you eat a lot of processed foods? Are all of your vegetables that you're eating, are they all organic? Are you eating lots of GMO foods or gluten that has glyphosates in it? So we have to start looking at like not just at sort of a whole body of what we're putting into ourselves and how we're handling our lifestyles across the board. I think it's really important, and not just focusing on the genetics, which is also obviously something.
Right, and that's the term epigenetics, which is the effect of environment on our genes, which I think is super powerful.
I heard a study that is like 20% is genetics and 80% what you do. Is that right, Dr. Duino?
Well, that's what I say as well. I mean, environment is a big factor. So one of the analogies I like to give is genetic is like you have a loaded gun. But if it's loaded, if you're just lying there, it's not doing anything to you. It's only when you pull the trigger, that's when the gun is effective or is causing damage. So it's the same thing. You may have the genes, but if you don't activate the genes by your lifestyle, that's not going to make any difference in you. So it's all the epigenetics is about all the environmental issues, the stress, the food, the way you live your life, sleep, all of this, the things that they mentioned are all very important because those affect your life. And even when I see patients with migraine headaches, and they say migraine is a genetic condition, so if your mother or father had it, you're more likely to get it. But that's just one part of the story. If you don't, what I like to focus on is obviously I cannot change the genes, but I can change, or I can at least help advise how to change your life and how to get good sleep, how to eat the right foods. And it's very important. I think we're all on the same page that the quality of the foods that you put in your body is very, very important. So it's not just about being vegan or vegetarian or whatever label you want to give, but are you eating whole foods or not? And what kind of at what time of day, and how much are you? The quantities are very important. The quality of sleep is very important. If you don't sleep well, your body is not going to regenerate the way it's supposed to, and you're going to have your pain is not going to go away. So I think lifestyle is 80%. Environment, lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, outside of you is 80%, and genes are only 20%.
I loved hearing that because that way you're not like, oh, I'm screwed. I was dealt a bad deck of cards, and so now I'm going to die early. Hold on.
First of all, I'm really happy that you're all here, and I'm really just honored that we're able to hear everything that you have to say. I always say to my husband, if the hormones that women were dealing with were going on in men, there would be libraries dedicated, movies out every weekend, and it would be handled. But and I also tell him that it feels like to be a woman, I always tell my husband, listen, I'm like a full martini glass and I have to run somewhere. It's going to spill over, I'm managing a lot inside my body that you don't understand. And so with that, I try to find an area to kind of focus on to feel better, to feel more stable, feel more balanced. But it's so overwhelming. I talk about 20% and 80%. I think I understood 20% of the verbiage you used, and I don't understand 80%. And so I'm just wondering from each of you if there is a simple and maybe big philosophy that you go on that you want your patients to know, your philosophy to health, like something that we can digest if we're not studying, we're not scientists.
Well, I'll say is what I tell my patients every day is about your lifestyle. And no matter how many different words that I use or medical terminology, it all comes down to how you're living your life. And if your life is not giving you the fulfillment and the satisfaction, and you're not happy with life, that's a big clue that you're not living the life that you want, that you should be living or that you want to be living. And so you have to just look at all aspects of your life. And obviously, I don't expect you to make a complete 180-degree change all of a sudden. But if you start incorporating simple changes, maybe doing yoga every day, or at least 10 minutes doing a meditation, or just learning how to relax and breathing. What she mentioned about breathing is so critical for stress management. Learning how to breathe properly. Anyone, when I'm driving in my car, sometimes I'll be doing alternate nostril breathing while I'm stopped at at a stop sign or a light, just to kind of get in the practice of learning how to breathe properly. In terms of eating, start incorporating more whole foods in your life. Cut out all the processed foods as much as possible. And so making small changes in the way you live your life, I think that's going to make, these are not sexy things. This is not about a new, treatment that, was reported on CNN tonight. But it's all these small changes that you can do that are going to make a huge impact in the way you live your life. And learning how to become more of a down-to-earth person, and being connected with the nature around you. I think that's very important. That's the way, what my message is to my patients.
I would love for you to learn and understand deuterium. Deuterium makes things grow. Children and teenagers actually need deuterium to grow. After a certain age, we're not growing up, we don't want to be growing out. Deuterium is the fuel for bugs, viruses, bacteria, fungus to grow. Deuterium is the fuel for tumours to grow. When it comes to genetics, many women are fearful if they have the BRCA gene, etc., and they go and have surgery to cut it out. You haven't changed the terrain that's a welcoming environment for tumours to grow. You need to manage your deuterium levels. Because deuterium is twice as big, if it gets into the cell, into the DNA, it opens it up so it's larger. So that creates that uncontrolled replication of that cell. So, all of the things that we do, all of these wonderful things that we do, will be potentiated by managing your deuterium levels so that you have the energy to respond to therapies, but that also, not only does it take away the fuel for tumours to grow, it actually enables your immune system to act as though it did when you were younger. So you have a stronger immune system to attack, but you're also taking away for the fuel for things that you don't want growing to flourish in your body.
Sarah, do you want to? Sarah and Dr. Taylor, you guys can wrap it up whenever you want after.
Well, I'll throw in a few sort of biohacks that are super easy ones that we can all have access to and use. First, I would be remiss if I didn't plug my business because I think it's so vital. So I would encourage you all to check out your bone health and see if you have low bone density, because after age 30, we lose 1% to 2% bone density a year. And at the end of 2020, the National Osteoporosis Foundation is estimating that there will be 50 million people in the U.S. alone who have bone density issues. So that's a big thing in terms of living healthily, feeling good, aging gracefully. But in terms of things that we can do that are pretty easy, I would encourage you to check out NAD, which is a supplement that we can get in a few different ways. There are a few different makers of it, but it's also available. I don't know if you do infusions that you can get IV NAD, but it really is, it's about aging gracefully. For me, I have better mental clarity when I use it. It's amazing for jet lag, for sleep, all different kinds of things. Another thing is light therapy. So looking into going somewhere where you can try out red light therapy, red light and near infrared light can be really powerful for depression, for increasing D levels, also brain health, joint health, and then anything that has PEMF technology is another one. So pulse electromagnetic field therapy is another one that if you want to add small things in that you can find pretty readily in a place like LA. That you can support the body in addition to going to see some of these practitioners to see what else you can do. That's a very personal thing, but I think there are a lot of places that you can go now. I mean, we live in the biohacking capital of the world in Los Angeles, so we're very fortunate to have places where we can go to experience those types of things.
First of all, great question. So for me, I, kind of my thing that I kind of tell patients is, if you have a symptom, so if you have a headache or you are not sleeping well or you're depressed or, you're not feeling the way that you feel like you should feel, find a functional medicine physician who can help you to get down to the root of the problem. Don't accept what your conventional medicine doctor tells you. Don't accept that your labs are normal and therefore there's nothing wrong with you. don't accept those answers, because there's something going on at the root that is causing you to feel the way that you feel. And, I feel like there should be a functional medicine practitioner on every corner, not because I want to be, out of business or whatever, but because I feel like it's so important, and it's really what we need. It's what we're looking for. We're really looking for figuring out what's actually going on. So, I do a lot of hormone therapy, and hormone imbalance is so often at the root of so many symptoms that my patients come in with. And I would just advocate for yourself. I think that's the biggest thing. If you're not happy with what your physician or, what they're telling you, find somebody who can help to really solve the root of the problem. My website is julietaylormd.com. I'm happy to kind of answer any questions for you. But yeah, I really feel like this is the way that the medical world needs to move.
Lastly, just if you want to say wherever everyone can find you, if it's on Instagram or website or Twitter or whatever, whatever y'all do these days.
Just to add, I want to stress what she said, that I actually used to work with a functional medicine doctor, and even though I'm an MD, and there are very few of us who are very interested in integrative medicine, but functional medicine is actually very important, and I would encourage people to find a functional medicine doctor. And one thing that I want to mention is stress is very important. And if you're getting really stressed out, brain health, this is all we're talking about. When we talk about bone health and everything else, brain is the organ that is the most important. That if your brain is not there, you can have the best bones in your body and the best, rest of the organs, you're not going to be able to live a life. And especially in this day and age, and the risk of Alzheimer's is growing exponentially, and it's estimated by the age of 85, almost 50% of the people are going to become demented. So it's very important that you take care of your brain, and that's one of the things that I focus on, not only because I'm a neurologist, but it's about the way you live your life, and all these things that you heard today are all about improving the quality of your brain. And so I would highly encourage that every one of you start paying attention to that, because right now we are young, but we're all going to get old, and when we grow old, the chances are very high that our memory and our cognitive abilities are going to get affected. So for me, if you want to find me, my website is premier-neurology.com. And my Instagram page, it's Your Stress Doc. I do a lot of stress work as well, so Your Stress Doc. And otherwise, just look for me. And my other place is Beverly Hills Headache Institute. So if you just Google that, Beverly Hills Headache Institute, you can get all the information about me as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Singh, so much. Sarah.
So my website is osteostrongla.com. So it's OSTEOSTRONGLA.com. And if anybody's interested in learning more about biohacking or wants to be directed at places where they can do, whether it's bone health or anything else, I'm really connected in that community. I can put you in the direction of really great podcasts or people in your area that can help you. So my personal email is Sarah with an H at osteostrongla.com. And we're also on Instagram, OsteoStrongLA, and on Facebook as well.
Thank you, Sarah. Dr. Cooper?
So yes, growing up in Australia, we did have a naturopath on every third or fourth corner. We are a little bit maybe closer to nature. We're very outdoors, and that's what I want you to take from this, is to try to go back a little bit. We live in a great world these days, but it's great in many ways, but we are suffering because of being so far removed from nature. And just get outdoors more often. Managing your stress levels on your brain is incredibly important. We need strong bones. Hormones are incredibly important. But do know that you can really investigate and learn a lot of things that you can do for yourself by taking a step back. Being busy is nothing to brag about. Being relaxed and lazy is the new way to go. You're just aging yourself faster and faster and faster by taking too much on, and slowing down and breathing and sleeping better and being calm and at peace and happy in your world.
And what's the best website for you?
Sorry. If you want to be vital, you go to www.bevital.la.
And Dr. Taylor, thank you so much, Dr. Cooper. Dr. Taylor.
Yeah, so JulieTaylorMD.com and Instagram is JulieTaylorMD, and my medical practice is in Pasadena.
All right. Thank you, guys. Wasn't that so informative? Awesome. Thank you so, so much.